It's Antonio's Humble Opinion. I'm your host, Antonio. Today's movie is Blue Beetle, directed by MANULEL SOTO, starring XOLO Mandrano. I might be pronouncing that wrong. You gotta forgive me. This movie is about an alien scrub who chooses a college graduate, Jaime Reyes, to be his symbiotic host, bestowing the teenager with a suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary and unpredictable powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes the superhero known as the Blue Beetle. Now, people, this movie has a lot of heart in it. I'm not gonna stray away from that. This is some of the pros. I'm gonna go over the pros first. Some of the pros is that it sticks to its strong points. Its strong point is not the superhero stuff, although there is a lot of great superhero stuff in it. But its main strength to me was its storyline dealing with the family. It has a lot of heart in the movie. It's really about overcoming your situations when you're in a position of not having a, maybe like coming up with, overcoming your shortcomings with togetherness. It displays that throughout the entire film. And that to me, that's his main strength, and it really sticks to that. It sticks to what it does good, and what it does good is the family aspect. The mom, the dad, the grandma, the sister, the crazy uncle, and then Jaime, who is a successful college student who graduates and is, full of life, thinking that the world is going to be his oyster and that he's going to take his whole family with him, and all the troubles they have, he's going to get them through it together as a family. And this movie really does a great job of giving you the family aspect. And like I said, it has a lot of heart, and it tries its best to pull on your heart strings. And for me, it did a good job, and that's some of its pros. Now, when looking at its cons, some of the cons are, unfortunately, some of the cons in a lot of these superhero movies, which is, unfortunately, the main villain was very one note, very, I want power, I'm evil, and I do whatever it takes to get what I want. And in this movie, that's pretty much the only note that this particular villain is showing, the main villain is showing. Now, her underboss, the underboss of the main villain, he's the one who's always squaring off with Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, his character. And in the underboss, he has a certain backstory that they kind of hint at throughout the movie that they don't really get into until the end of the movie. But you can see in his eyes that he's down to do whatever the boss says, but he also doesn't really like the boss, and that does play a point into the movie. But that's the cons. Pretty much a bad villain. I do like the underboss villain. I thought he should have got more screen time, but I would definitely say the main villain is the con, and then the plot itself is kind of bare bones thin. But like I said, when you're looking at the positives, and I do think, to me, this movie landed on the positive side. I do like the storyline with the family. I thought it carried the film very well. Kind of has a sense of like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like when you watch the Guardians of the Galaxy, you watching it for the superhero stuff, but you also watching it because you like the dynamic between those particular the group. And in this movie, you will like the dynamic, in my opinion, with the group of the family. Now, like going into the spoiler section, so if you haven't seen the movie, this is the point of my video where you will want to clock out if you plan on seeing it. If not, or you have seen it, just stick with me right here. And again, we're going to go over the spoilers. Now, in the spoiler section, starting off, Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle, he graduates from college. Like I said, he's looking at the world like everything's about to change for him. He's about to get his career path going, and he's all full of joy. Fast forwards a few years, and you find out everything hasn't worked out for him. The degree hasn't landed him that big career job. His sister, who's always the wisecracking character, is telling him, hey, I know everything didn't work out, but hey, we got this job. And the job they have is they're cleaning houses. Now, when they're cleaning houses at the beginning of the film, obviously this is not what, Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle wants, but, he's doing it, he's happy, whatever. And his sister, they have bathrooms outside for the employees to use. She doesn't want to use those. She wants to go into the house and use the house bathroom because they're working for a rich person. So they go into the house, they sneak into the house. She's cleaning up in the house. She decides to use the house bathroom. While she's using the house bathroom, their employer, the boss, the rich woman, the main villain of the movie, is having a discussion with her niece, who is also obviously rich, but also is on the board of the company. And the niece is not liking what the aunt is trying to do, which is make a weapon using the Blue Beetle, let's say, mechanism to power the company. She's not feeling it. So as Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle, is watching the conversation, the aunt is about to get hands put on her niece to get her thrown out the house. He's not feeling it. He goes to step in. As he goes to step in, his sister walks out the bathroom. Now she's caught. And now the boss is telling Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, while you are very attractive, I'm going to be getting both of you guys fired. I'm going to fire both of you guys. So she told them to pack their stuff and leave. So as they're sitting outside, him and his sister, contemplating what they're going to do next, the niece walks out. She's mad and angry, but she stops and notices Jaime. He did try to help her. So she tells him, hey, come meet me at the company. I'll try my best to get you a job somewhere else in the company, for you helping out and me causing you to lose your job. Now, now when he decides to come to next day, the sister doesn't come. She doesn't care. She don't want a job. He goes to get a job. As he's coming into the building, she's obviously not there on time. She's somewhere else in the building trying to get the Blue Beetle scarab. She's trying to get the Blue Beetle scarab, the thing that's used to power this power source that her aunt's using, out of the building. As she's trying to leave the building, Jaime sees her. He runs into her. She gives him the Blue Beetle in a box, tells him, take it home. Do not touch it. I'll see you later. As he goes home, his family is curious what's in the box. They convince him to open it. They open it. Everybody kind of in his family touches it, but nothing happens. He finally grabs it, and the Blue Beetle itself attaches itself to him. Now, when the Blue Beetle attaches itself to him, it's a pretty cool scene. Obviously, showing him getting the Blue Beetle powers. Kind of reminds me of the movie Guyver, if you ever seen it. That was one of my favorites growing up. It kind of gives you a very creepy feel as he's turning into the Blue Beetle. It's nothing nice. It's almost turns into a horror film for those particular 5 minutes. I mean, you really, if you're his family and you watching it, you're thinking he's out of here, because it's not that type of transformation. It's really terrifying to watch on screen. It's really gruesome, which is like the Guyver superhero movie that I was just mentioning. So that's kind of why it reminded me of that. So he has a pretty cool scene where he turns into the Blue Beetle. He then flies off with the Blue Beetle, and he does a superhero trope in movies where they find out how to use the powers, and he's having a good time once he gets over the fear of it. After that, after finding out the powers, he has a pretty cool fight scene that comes up. A pretty cool fight scene with the main villain / henchman. In that fight scene, he kind of wins the fight, but that was kind of like, them kind of showing you that, okay, he has his powers, but there's another guy, that the underboss, who also is using that technology in his own way, and this is going to be the main guy he ends up fighting at when it's all time and done. So that's kind of, to me, that was kind of just, showing him being able to use his powers. Hey, this is who he's going to be facing. And they kind of had a nice little scrum. It was a pretty cool scene, nothing too crazy. He finds out, they end up finding out the history of the Blue Beetle. Apparently, the rich niece, apparently her dad was working on the technology, and that's why she was so interested in it and didn't want her aunt to work on it. They also find out, and what it looked like, it was like a bat cave, but we're gonna call it the Beetle Cave. So in the Beetle Cave, it shows that her dad was working on the technology. Her dad gone missing. She's been thinking her dad's been dead her whole life. Well, for the most part, from when he disappeared in her life. But he might not be dead. That's kind of what the sense of that scene gave you. And also, it let you know the history. And part of the history was that the Blue Beetle, it attaches itself to his spinal cord and then works its way around the brain. It doesn't leave its host until the host dies, and then they find somebody else who it would like to be like it's like parasitic. But it's not bad. it actually is, you know, obviously it's good because he's a superhero. It doesn't like try to get you to do evil things. It just kind of tries to bond with you based on how it feels. And I guess it likes the fact that he's a good-hearted kid. So with that being said, Jaime Reyes is not necessarily happy that he can't get rid of it, but he learns to embrace it, obviously. Um, After that, the cops, he gets word that he gets an alert. The cops are trying to take out his family. When they're at his house, they're trying to get his family out. They'll kind of like force him to come. So he end up leaving the Blue Beetle cave, flies over there, has a pretty cool fight scene. Again, another, to me, this was probably one, I would say this was probably the best scene in the movie for me. He has a pretty cool fight scene with the cops. Not that long, but the scene for me was the best because it was very dramatic in that the family was in danger. It really made you feel like they was a threat because he's at a disadvantage because he's trying to protect his family at the same time. He's trying to protect his family. They have the ability to take them out and kind of like it kind of like even the playing field as far as him having this overpowered suit and then them just using the cops or the security in the company and then a helicopter which they had trying to get at the family. In this particular scene, the dad ends up having a heart attack. He ends up passing away. Jaime is then caught. As Jaime is caught, his family then comes back, tries to help the dad, but the dad does not survive the heart attack, unfortunately. Now, while they're moaning for the dad, they're also trying to figure out how to get Jaime Reyes back, the Blue Beetle, who's been captured. Now, while he's being captured, they're trying to, the bad guys are, trying to take the life out of him. On the machine that they have him attached to, some type of energy drainage machine that's going to apparently drain all the knowledge. I don't know how that works. It was going to somehow drain the intelligence or the information out of the Blue Beetle machine so that they can use it for themselves in the future, and also create obviously technology to use in wars. That was the whole plan, to make money from using the machine as war pieces. Okay, so as the family decides to go save them, they end up, obviously they was in the Blue Beetle cave. Apparently, they're in the Blue Beetle cave. We're gonna call it that. There's a Blue Beetle airship. The whole family hops in the airship. I don't know how they know how to fly it. They fly the airship to the villains, to where Jaime's being captured. They land on the roof. They have a really nice action scene where the Blue Beetle is somehow kicking. It's a big machine and is using his legs to kick all the security out the way. For some reason, none of the security guards can get out the way. So they get into it. They get into the place. They save Jaime. They get him out the machine. Well, actually, excuse me, I messed up on that. They don't get him out the machine. He gets himself out of the machine by tapping into the full power of the Blue Beetle. After he gets out of the machine from the Blue Beetle, he then, I'm trying to remember this. He gets out of the machine from the Blue Beetle. He gets out of the machine from the Blue Beetle by tapping into his full potential. Now, when he taps into his full potential, it overloads the suit. So now the suit doesn't, now the symbiotic suit doesn't work for a while. And the technology that the bad guys needed, they actually still somehow got it out of them. So now they use the technology really fast on the underboss character who was using it before, and so now he becomes fully powered. So then they end up having another fight scene. Obviously, Jaime Reyes, the Blue Beetle, wins the fight. I thought that fight was underwhelming. The CGI in that for the first time in the movie, the CGI in that scene kind of was a little rough for me. However, it didn't take me out of the movie. Obviously, the Blue Beetle wins. And as the Blue Beetle is winning, they finally give you the backstory of the underboss. He then remembers his past and realizes how much he doesn't like his actual boss. He ends up deciding to take himself, and the boss into a fire pit, basically a pit of fire, and they pretty much go kapoof. As they're going kapoof, the whole place blows up. Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle, hops in the Beetle, they hop in the Beetle ship, they're going off. He jumps up to fly, they catch him, and then, basically they get away. So to me, that was the end of the movie. I like the henchman flashback, finally showing the henchman The end of the movie kind of showing like what he was doing, because they was like trying to tell a story with his eyes, like how he would, you know, cut at the main boss and how he didn't like some of the stuff the main boss was saying. But I do like the end scene of the movie as far as that goes. But the fight, the main boss, man, and end scene, those were not good to me. But just getting his backstory, bringing some heart to his character, because he actually wasn't necessarily that bad of a person. He was a person of war, but he had some heart to him. And you know, that was it was a pretty cool scene. Overall, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. I will say, if you are thinking about going to watch this movie in a movie theater, I don't think you will watch it and feel like you wasted your money. But I will say, if you wait to go catch it on streaming services, that you would also probably say, yeah, you know, I was cool on going to the movies. But again, I think this is a 7 out of 10 movie. This is not a bad movie in my opinion. There's gonna be people out there who, you know, hating on superhero movies right now, gonna tell you this movie is trash. I'm not one of those. I think this was a pretty good movie, and it represented the Latino community well throughout the movie, in my opinion. So I, you know, definitely go out and support it. Looking at the box office, something I like to get into. Just looking at the box office right now, it's looking to do 25.5 million domestic, 18 million internationally. Its worldwide gross, excuse me, is looking like 43.5 million. This movie was made on a reported budget of 104 million. Just looking at what it's made in the first weekend, the first 3 days, looking at this budget, unless this movie just completely falls on its face, I would have to imagine it's going to actually make a profit. And even though it's not making a lot of money, you know, you're gonna have people saying it flopped, because I'm seeing a lot of that going around on the internet. I wouldn't say it's a flop based off its budget. Based off its budget, it's halfway there. If your movie costs you $360 million and you made 180 million, I mean, this is pretty much the same equivalent. If the numbers are correct, that it only costed 104 million to make, I mean, you're almost halfway there. You got to think in maybe 3 weeks you will be there, and then everything starts to kind of go from there. It's not going to be a big success. It's not going to be anything that's going to make the studios think like we should do a part two, but it will be a success nevertheless. It will make a profit, and then when it goes to streaming, I think this movie will do really well, because I think it's drawing a lot of interest. It just might not get as many people to go actually support it in the theaters. Anyway, that's my review of the movie. Went over the spoilers, box office. My name is Antonio. This is In My Humble Opinion. You guys enjoy. Catch me on the next video. Thank you.